Those rogue heavy hitters of Minkanko and Ice Jade with Marincess are actually starting to shine pretty well this format. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. We have the Colombia regional breakdown here. Now, first thing I'm going to tell you about this. I'm pretty bored of this format already. Full disclaimer. So, if when I'm slogging through the 19th Kashitira deck out here, please pardon me if the excitement levels tend to get a little bit lower, because it's the same thing that we've kind of seen for a lot of this. But speaking of Kashitira, it was your most represented deck out of this top. Actually pretty interesting. This is the first regional that I have seen this block where Kashitira has been a extremely dominating force, and I'm actually kind of surprised about that. At most out of a lot of these regional blocks, we've seen this deck kind of be a 2 as a 1-up, but a 3 of pushing it near, the top or the higher top of the percentile, I think is kind of interesting. Now, we also have Dragon Link. I'm not all that surprised. Dragon Link Innovation has been pretty good. They've started to go towards playing the vanilla dropper so they can play the 1 of Gamma in the deck, which actually is pretty good. I think having access to that drop actually does tend to make the deck a lot stronger. We also have Purely in your top cut. I'm not all that surprised at the end of the day. Also, someone's going to be like, oh my god, Robbie, stop saying at the end of the day. At the end of the day, Purely Innovations deck is still kind of doing its thing. I've noticed Book of Moon still doing its thing out here. We also have Marincess and the Minkanko deck out here as well. So Battle Phase Reflection, players aren't, once again, too prepared for how Minkanko plays its game. And we also had Ice Jade pieces being included inside of Marincess, and that's not exactly something that I've seen a lot of. It's been on the table, but it hasn't been too successful. And of course, we had Caw the deck. So glad to see that Flaunder is doing Flaunder things. Let's pass on over to deck list. Alright, so our first deck list we're going to be looking at here was Dragon Link, coming in at 8th place. This is actually a pretty low standing for Dragon Link, kind of all things considered. See, we are playing a Small World Bridge package in here as well. We are playing the Red Eyes, the Meteor Flare Dragon guy that can drop the brick out of the deck, so goodbye, driver. You dick thin that out, you kind of go ahead and you continue to play the game. 55 cards is definitely interesting. I feel like maybe you could have put 5 more in there and just called it a day and played the 60 card variant, but alas, we're not pushing too hard for that. Everything, I think, looks pretty straightforward at this point in terms of how you want to play the deck, how things are looking, and yeah, outside of that, there's not really too much change that really needs to come with this deck. It's been pretty much hammered out at this point in time, and I think that's actually a good thing. When you have such a straightforward deck being able to be played, good stuff. Alright, next up here, we have our Minkanko deck. Now, Minkanko, how many kaijus we got? We got 3 kaijus in the main deck. We're not playing Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Our extra deck is kind of interesting here, but we are just playing 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance. I guess they didn't want to bulk down and worry about dead drawing any of the off ones, which is, it's fine. We're also playing 2 copies of Lava Golem at that stage too, so once again, it's just you're detouring your opponent. You don't want to, deal with anything. I also see that we are playing Diviner of the Herald here as well, so you can go ahead, drop down the Herald out of the extra deck, and then continue to play the game. I see we are also playing the new Minkanko monster up here as well. I'm not a super big fan of the new Minkanko monster. I think it's kind of cool for what you can add into the deck, but there's no real point in, I guess, going too crazy with it. But I do like what we've got going here. Once again, deck does the same thing that it needs to do. It's an incredibly powerful deck, and it still detours your opponents. Marincess out here. Now, we are playing the Ice Jade stuff in here, which is the Ice Jade grind in here. Now, the grind gives you like a discard fodder to set up, the Ice Jade Synchro, which then puts further pressure on the opponent. Don't underestimate how good this little splash package being built into the deck actually puts more pressure on the opponent. Also, we are citing the Spiritual Water Art Always in here. The only decks that we've seen doing this up to this point were actually Sky Striker and the Rika Sun Avalon decks, where you want that hand knowledge from your opponent. You want the ability to tap in there and know what you have to play against. And if Marincess can put an extra water monster on the field to be able to kind of capitalize on that advantage point, then they're able to get that knowledge and know what they need to negate with their big Marincess monster. And of course, anti-spell fragrances, all that stupid, fun, good stuff also in the deck here. Alright, hi, Purely, how are you? So we are playing triple Book of Moon with double Book of Eclipse in the side deck. Now, the biggest things I'm going to tell you here, Book of Everything has been a huge, big support card in this format. Up to this point, though, it's interesting that none of the other decks in this tournament were taking advantage of Book anything. I don't know if they just felt that they didn't need it, or if, their strategy wasn't necessarily, too reliant on it, but Purely is one of those things that if a big floodgate monster has established itself, you need to out it ASAP. You need to handle any of the issues that, the big synchros, the big lines of play are going to put down as an issue. And this is one of those decks that I don't really think you can get away not playing Book at some sort of capacity. You do have the book or the Dark Rulers to kind of compensate for that, but it comes down to, if you feel you need it. All right, our first Kashitira deck here. Hey, triple Book of Moon. Well, that's just a big old shocker right there. Surprise Robbie face. The biggest things I can tell you about this deck, the change of heart's kind of spicy. I like that we are also playing the set rotation in here as well. So we can set rotation something on over to the opponent's field, have the opponent go, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? And just kind of have them be like, I can't believe this. See, we're also playing the Goliath down here. Since we are playing the Pot of Prosper, you can go ahead and Goliath, stick in underneath the Rise Heart. All the little fun protection effects that you've been pretty used to seeing at this point in time. It's stuck around. Not really much has changed. I mean, like I said, the cutest thing here is we're playing the set rotation with the Scare Clawfield spell to, after we can go ahead and raise Loth hand something on over to our opponent and just not even really care at the end of the day. So that's kind of cute. Next up here, we have our Flounderies. Oh boy, we are playing triple copies of Evenly Matched in the main deck. Who does not love the fact that you can evenly your opponent going second with the birds and then just clean up things? You still have Dimension Shifter, you still have Droll and Lockbird. We are on triple extra, have triple Pot of Prosperity. Somebody I think is going to be like, well, that's a little bit weird. But I mean, the Draw 2 in this deck is actually incredibly useful. Alright, trust me. You want as much advantage as you can generate. I also love the fact that they're extra deck. I love the Gate Guardian of Wind and Water that we're actually playing in here. This is one of those cases that this deck, it cares about its extra deck to some capacity. I mean, the Assembled Nightingale into the Zeus, actually important. I almost think they should have played more Zeuses in here, but at the end of the day, they made their decision tree. It worked out. It carried them all the way to a third place, and I think that is absolutely amazing. Now, our second place Kashitira deck here, we got Lingaribo in here, so we are fully prepared for the Nightmare Corruptor Ibli situation. I see we're also playing the Master Blades. Master Blades has been seeing a pretty decently large increase amount of gameplay out here. It's actually been kind of refreshing to actually see this card back in the game. And I think a lot of people are just kind of like, hey, Master Blades sucks. Like, there's no real point to do this. Give it a shot. It's been cool. I mean, we've seen the Infinitrack monster also gaining a decent amount of play ever since that WCQ out here. A lot more people have kind of been like... outside of that, I mean, we're still doing Goliath. We have Dark Ruler No Mores in the main deck. And Dark Holes, actually. I almost feel like that those could have been better spent, quite possibly, in other assets, like the Book of Moons, to set things. But you know what? It worked out. It was able to get them to a second place finish, and that's actually pretty good. Now, I want to rant about this for a second. The winning Kashitira list actually is kept secret. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you here for a second. This deck has been so figured out at this point in time. You can pull any of the 19,000 combinations and, you know, probably play Book of Moon in the main deck, and you can be successful. There's no real reason not to share, you know, a list out here of this variety. It's so crazy that they think that they have something saucy. They probably play a Nightmare Corrupt Ribley, and they don't want people back on it or something, but that's my 2 cents. Like, come on, you could have at least, you know, done a little bit more in shared. It's Kashitira at this point. There is no innovation left in this deck. It's straightforward as garbage. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about this regional. See your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.